So as promised in the previous video, I'm going to start tearing up the floor now. Not the part of the floor that Linda has been painstakingly sanding. This is the part of the floor underneath the sink that is water damaged and falling apart and looks hideous. I'm glad nobody had to stand on it for the past 50 or 60 years, or they would have been in the basement by now. So, we have replacement floorboards lined up. These boards are going, they're trash, and I have the tools to do it. Oh, and incidentally, so I've set the blade on my circular saw to the deepest possible bite, and we're going to do a tilt cut in. I previously checked there's no electric under the floor at this point, so first one up.
That might hit a stud.
Well, in that case,
Because I'm seeing this, I'm looking at the stud right there. So
yeah. So then what we do is we adjust it so it'll only bite down the thickness of the floor itself. You saw a couple of sparks there. That was where we hit some nails. Luckily, I've got a demo blade in there. Look, basement. Okay, I should have measured a little more closely. These boards are just sitting on the edge of this joist, so I'm going to put a stringer underneath them before I proceed too much further. Too much further, that is. And I have my final board marked here with tape that Linda put down, so we know how far we need to go for the time being. Now, because I have to cut through this Luan too, I'm going to advance the blade just a bit more.
Are you okay with the electric, or do you want me to go down and check?
I think I'm good where I am.
Okay.
It's getting there, folks. Now this marked board is the last one, so I don't want to try and do a cross cut with the saw because there's a very good chance I'm going to run into the boards we want to preserve. Same goes with the jigsaw, it just won't do it. So what I'm going to do is switch back to the circular saw and we will cut along the length of that board. I'm going to switch angles so that the weight of the saw is not over the precipice. I line up the blade. Realize I've still got it on deep cut. I don't want to cut that joist. So, give you an example of how I do this. Take a scrap of the floor. And there. It's just going to kiss through. Tighten it up. And we're ready to rock. This way, we get the tongue out. The groove on this board remains untouched. So we'll be able to slot in a new floorboard right where we want it. Now I'm going to go get a tape measure so I can find out exactly where the next floor joist is and bisect it with the cut line. Okay, so I got my tape measure and I got a Sharpie. So I'm just going to run it down and see how far I am to the side of the floor joist. That's going to be there. These floor joists are darn near 2 inches thick. We're dealing with 100-year-old lumber back when a 2x8 was 1 7/8 inches shy of 2 inches. These days it'll be 1.5 inches if you're lucky. But so I'll figure out about half of that's 1 inch. Got a framing square. Not that anything is going to be completely and accurately square, but close enough is close enough. Set that aside. Realized I need some more depth because I'm cutting through that luan again. And I've got to do something because the front of the saw is going to run up against that. So actually that's a problem in any situation like this. Saw clearances. I can get no closer to a solid edge than the front of the blade, about 2 inches. The jigsaw, about 1/2 inch, 3/4. After that, I've got to go in by hand, hammer and chisel, old school. Just checking there's no electric. And at this point I'm going to switch back to the jigsaw, and I'll catch you guys in a couple minutes. Okay, so the majority of the floor is now cut away. That's the electrical outlet for the dishwasher and the garbage disposal, which the individual in question drilled up through the floor, through the sheet of nylon, which wasn't attached to anything, mind you. It was just sitting on the floor. It's been cut away. That's going to be dealt with separately. We're probably going to cool down the circuit, disassemble the box, splice in a new box for an extension, and it'll end up on the wall over there. For now, it's down there, it's out of the way, and I don't have to worry about catching electric. We now have an interesting and inviting hole in the floor. I have to go in by hand to get this last board out and get all of the edges cleaned up and ready to receive new boards. And I'll show those to you later. Have fun.
Go.
Okay, at this point I'm switching to chisels. I laid out where my perpendicular line is from this edge, and start by striking the line, and then that way I can get in that gives me a little wall here that I can work against with less and less fear of skipping up and ripping up the top of that. The other advantage of having a hole in the floor. Now, even though these boards are water damaged, for the most part, except for the ones that were right around the drain, they are dense and durable as heck. You literally cannot get pine like this anymore. This was probably from the great woods of Maine, from trees that were a couple hundred years old. And they grew slowly and had growth rings that were really tight together. Like, for example, do we have a cut piece of that stuff around? Oh, here. Look at the growth rings, how close they are together. Yeah, compare that with some pine that's modern pine. That grows very fast. It doesn't have the kind of strength. And this is going to take quite a while. Makes me wish I had grabbed an oscillating multi-tool from work and brought it home over the weekend. I think I'll ask my boss tomorrow if I can borrow it overnight. Come at this stuff and get it all done in about 20 minutes. Yeah, that's sounding better and better. I respect hand tools, but I will use the power tools. Lord, will I use the power tools. The other less exciting thing I didn't show was pulling the nails. And those gave us a beautiful example of what happens with the water damage. For example, this is one of the nails that came out of the profile. Basically, it would have been driven down through the tongue. You can see the thick part is where it was in the wood, and the thin part is where it was in the gap between two pieces of wood where you had water and air getting to it. And all of this used to be uniform. Yep.